Freed Selzen, my mind immediately connected the dot. Should I kill him? Well, if I kill him, it would indirectly help Gremory. And now, I didn't like them because of their stupidity. After weighing Freed's death, like figuring out what kind of shoes I want to wear, what's left was making an entrance, an amazing fuck, amazing. Hey! I am the Red Dragon Emperor and the King of Heroes. I should have incredible input to go against my enemy, you know? Drake, Regulus? Do you have any idea how I can get in? Kick the door, said Drake. Meh, too cliché, said Regulus. Yes, this has already been overused. Me, Regulus and Drake exchanged ideas about my supposedly tough entry. However, we dragged him into useless pranks somehow. And we waste time unproductively. Go Tarzan and enter through the window. With a loincloth like an uncivilized barbarian. Of course Tarzan was famous for his loin. It might be a good one, you know, Drake, Regulus. Instead of intimidating them, I'll become a joke and they won't take me seriously. Damn, just get in normally now. Yes, hurry up one, you are crazy? They will mistake me for a lost child and not take me seriously and despise me. I hate being looked down on. Go from Juggernaut Drive, says Drake. Go from Break Down the Beast, says Regulus. Drake, Regulus, we're just cleaning up an irritating smell in space, not fighting a top 10 member. It's over too much. Stop whining and get in now. Yes, stop chatting and come in. So, it's the cliché entry, hi. My right foot rose. And then I kicked in the double doors. With a bang the doors opened and shattered into a small splinter by the small power I wielded. At first the church seemed empty, but my exceptional sense of hearing could hear him, the outcry in the hidden cellar. A trapdoor suddenly opened. Dozens of men and women dressed in white robes came out with a lightsaber sword, which reminds me of a lightsaber from wars, and silver weapons in their hands. They put a different mask on their face, caution, surprise, and madness. And here I thought we were being attacked by shitty devils. Who thinks the attacker is really a lost lamb? Ha 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 ha, so, bastard, you got a gut barking in this place, huh? Bored for a living? Do you want to die? The person spoken to was a young man with shoulder-length white hair and red eyes, a little older than me. His expression filled with insanity and madness. He wore a white exorcist robe, just like the dozens of people here. Freed Selzen, was that person's name. I was strangely calm. My face didn't tremble at the appearance of dozens of stray armed exorcists. In my eyes they have no value, they were no more than a bunch of scum, an ant that had escaped my notice. My targets were the 4 remaining fallen angels in this area and Asia. Unfortunately, they were still in the basement. Mutts! Why don't you already dodge and make it easy for me? It's not like your number mattered so much in my eyes. Freed and the lost exorcists showed a mask of anger after hearing my arrogant words. They gnashed their teeth in rage. Their pride must be hurt by my ridiculous words. What's this? What's this? A brat dares to say something absurd in front of this incredible me? You're courting death, ah? If you're really bored of living, I'll send you to hell. With a scream filled with rage, Freed brandished his silver weapon and pointed it at my face. And then he pulled the trigger. I let out a sigh. The blessed silver bullet escaped the weapon's muzzle. He flew towards me in slow motion, which bored me to death because he was waiting to catch up. And I tilted my head slightly, letting the bullet pass like that. What? What the hell? Freed roared in disbelief. How were you avoiding this incredible bastard's bullet? Tell me. Tell me. How did you do it? TCH. Annoying. It's just gone, worm. I muttered coldly, my voice echoing in the silent church. At that moment, the world slowed down. This was the phenomenon that someone with power usually experienced because of how fast they could move. And then I ran towards Freed and kicked the side of his head, holding my power so he wouldn't die. I decided to spare the insane exorcist so he could harass the Gremory group later. For everyone in the neighborhood, it happened in a flash. I only stayed here for a moment, and the moment later I reappeared beside Freed with his foot raised in the air and the mad exorcist body thrown out of the church through the window, breaking him in the process. Freed screamed and moaned pitifully as his body soared into the air until he disappeared from my sight. I put my foot down and went back to looking at the dozens of lost exorcists around me, my eyes sweeping and taking in his expression. Disbelief. Denial. Surprise. Shock. Fear. Their expressions varied from one to the other, giving me something to see. So? Are you going to get out of my sight or are you going to give your life to me? I asked calmly. Hi. Kill him. Attack. Screams filled with anger, fear, and despair echoed in the air. The dozens of lost exorcists attacked me with abandon, showing their despair for the impossible, killing me. Humph. I snorted, the air severely coming out of my nose. I shook my thumb and middle finger. At that moment, a red-colored magic circle with the dragon skull symbol appeared on the ground. The glowing circle was wide, nearly filling the church floor. An emerald-colored gem appeared on the back of my left hand and then boost and transfer, shone with a bright light. What happened next was a horrible sight to remember. They all exploded, blood and body parts spilled into the ancient holy house. And just like that, silence descended. What happened was that they exploded because their mortal body couldn't stand the Red Dragon Emperor's gift. Why Gilgamesh was inexplicably powerful. So powerful until he unwittingly shared his power. He was the root of the second base power of boosted gear, gift. Drake's penetration and absolute dragon fire existed because that absurd power too. I have mastered all that power, the power of Gilgamesh. And if I activated the Juggernaut drive, the power I could access was really the power that belonged to Drake in his heyday. I wiped my blood-stained cheek. Surprisingly, I didn't feel disgusted or want to throw up. What I felt was emotion from so much blood and I wanted to see more, the blood of my enemy. In that moment, I, once a normal human, finally understood the true meaning of bloodlust. When I wanted to enter the cellar through the TR/AP door, someone had come out first. The short, cautious question came from a felt hat and trench coat. He has an elegant appearance and a beautiful European facial structure. Brad Pitt, an artist from my former world, would be embarrassed to compare himself to this mere cannon fodder. DxD. The only male fallen angel in Raineray's disheveled group. Before I could answer his question, two silhouettes came out. First, a tall woman with straight, shiny blue hair. She wore a tight red-colored suit, accentuating her G-cup breasts, her slim, slender waist and wide, gorgeous hips. Her short skirts let me see her full, supple thigh pair. His narrow golden eyes regarded me warily. Amazingly, this woman has an oriental look for a fallen angel. She was Kala Warner, another member of Raineray's scum group. The last silhouette belonged to a pretty, petite girl, with blonde hair and blue eyes, accentuating her European facial structure. Her untamed hair was tied into two black ribbon tails with white ruffles. She wore a gothic Lolita dress, as opposed to Offie's provocative gothic Lolita dress. Her dress gave her an air of cute daughter from a noble family. Her delicate yet sharp facial structure sent asunder a vibe to me. She was Miltet, the only loli in Raineray's group of annoyances. Gilgamesh. I replied coldly. DxD and Kala Warner's eyes widened in surprise. Miltet was the only one who has a clueless expression. I found it amusing. That's the name of our human target. Aren't you supposed to be killed by our underlings? Wouldn't they supposedly intercept you? DxD sent me a series of questions. And then, a flash of anxiety and hostility entered his eyes. Where are they now? Speak human, or I'll kill you. I looked at DxD. His intimidation was like shit. It was too cliché for my taste. Honestly, I heard this threat over and over again like a broken tape in the anime I watched in my previous life. Huh? Huh? So he's the target human. Hey, he's really cute, isn't he? Too bad. Too bad. Let me play with him before I kill him, okay? Miltet spoke in a childish and cheerful voice. My eyebrows rose at that. This little fallen. Miltet, shut up. He's dangerous. Kala Warner whispered sternly to Loli. His golden eyes swept the place, taking in the blood and blood everywhere. At that moment, I discovered that Miltet was an airhead, while Kala Warner was cautious. And then I looked at DxD. Those idiots, huh? I don't know. Maybe they're dead in some corner somewhere. I said with a careless shrug. You. DxD yelled. There was wild light and anger in his eyes. He drove to me. It was an animosity born of knowing your mate was hurt. I lazily watched as DxD created a light weapon in his hands. 2 darts. 2, red blood dart in both hands. It happened in just a second, but for me it happened in slow motion. My eyes caught how patches of light appeared around his palm and then condensed into 2 light, hard weapons. Once again, I ran towards my target in the slow world. This time, my left hand covered in blood-red scales and golden bumps, boosted gear fully manifested. My human left hand became the dragon's paw full of sharp claws. I grabbed DxD's head as his spear of light fully created, and then boost, then transfer and finally squelch. DxD's head exploded, his brain mush, skull and blood splintering everywhere and staining those of Kala Warner and Miltet. And my face. And then, DxD's decapitated body turned to light, joining the mana in the air, while his consciousness went into void like other dead supernatural beings. Miltet screamed in fright, her blue irises trembling. In his eyes, it happened instantly. In a moment, I was at one point, and then I appeared in front of DxD decapitated and disgusting brains and blood smeared everywhere, staining his pretty face and pretty dress. What? It's impossible, this gauntlet, the Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet. How? You're supposedly not just normal human with normal sacred gear? There was no information about you as the Dragon Emperor current read, and this strong. Kalawarner's pupil twitched in fright and shock, her body twitching as her survival instinct told her to run away for her life. I felt resigned when I saw that look. Kalawarner just lost the will to fight after finding out who I was and how powerful I am. It wasn't fun, well, there was never fun fighting a weakling like them. Kalawarner tried to run away by teleporting out of here. However, she was still slow, very slow as a snail. My left hand immediately hit her neck, like a buzzing snake, and my claws choked it. Thus, the teleportation equation was interrupted and Kalawarner lost his chance to flee. I leaked some of my contained power and intent from my body. The overwhelming pressure of my willpower slammed into the minds of Kalawarner and Miltet. I let them feel my firm willpower, the arrogant intent that has no pity on anyone who dares stand in my way. Carnage. Massacre. Bloodshed. Undoing. Despair. Death. Kalawarner and Miltet's minds were shaken by my overpowering presence, their eyes watering and pissing at the same time. Their bodies trembled like a small scarred animal in front of the true predator. Please. Don't kill me. Heek, I don't want to die. Heek asterisk hiccup, I'll do anything. Miltet whimpered in despair, knowing there was no chance for her if we fought. Although Kalawarner couldn't speak because I strangled her, she was already desperate and subject to me. They were very scared of death. And because of that, I lost my mood to play with them. They were too pitiful to be my prey and they were no longer my prayers. In the middle of the blood-stained church, which emitted a dark and menacing vision, 3 silhouettes could be seen. It was me, Kalawarner and Miltet. After dealing with dozens of exorcists and Donazeek, the 2 remaining fallen angel women. My right hand was choking Kalawarner's neck, preventing her from escaping through teleportation magic. Beside her, a sobbing Miltet stared at me with an expression of fear. I watched Kalawarner panting. Your yellow eyes have yet to give up completely. When I saw it, I found this woman quite interesting. She didn't look simple and has the look of an intriguer. I connected everything in my mind immediately. Kalawarner was probably taking a break while looking for a crack in my guard. When she found a chance to escape, she would do it in the blink of an eye, leaving her lowly buddy behind. What a heartless, meticulous woman. I couldn't let her go like this. But what could I do to keep her on a leash? Well, luckily, I have a solution to a problem like that. Death. I focused some of my power on my free left hand. Immediately, a red aura of blood covered my left hand and a small magic circle appeared on my palm. And I moved the palm of my left hand to his massive left chest. Kalawarner's yellow eyes fluttered frantically. She was afraid I would do something that would kill her. Her struggle made his cup chest tremble. In her eyes, my lady's hand was like the sickle of death that would rob her of her life and her future. Unfortunately, her fight was for nothing. My strength was overpowering her very pitiful strength. My hand started to catch fire when a flame appeared. Gah! Painful screams echoed nearby. It was moving and had shivers down the listener's spine. Kalawarner struggled harder, her hands gripping my left and right. She tried to snatch my hand away and escape the burning pain she was feeling. Because the pain was too much, she couldn't have enough free time to create a light weapon of retaliation. Her mind focused on pain and despair. Beside her, Miltet's knees gave out, she fell to the ground, her face filled with terror. Her fragrance was ruined by the smell of urine. She watched in fear as she watched and heard the sight of Kalawarner struggling and his tortured scream. And in less than seconds the crimson flames of purgatory devoured the body of the fall until nothing was left. Miltet let out a loud, terrified scream as my gaze shifted from Kalawarner to her. Miltet's body shook with terror. And her blue irises filled with nothing but fear. I wouldn't be wrong if someone said she was mentally scared. Please. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Spare me. Spare me. I don't want to die. Again, a plea and moans came out of Miltet's mouth, which was like a broken tape recorder. Of course, I ignored her. Looking at me as I was moving towards her, she tried to get away from the 4 of them, but it was just a wasted effort. I moved into the slow world and appeared on top of Miltet, her small body between my legs. Miltet turned her face in a slow, mechanical movement. Her face showed despair, tears spilling endlessly. Please. I beg you. I don't want to die. Don't worry, I'll make it painless, I told her, making her despair rise. At that moment, Miltet regretted following Rainere's plan. She should have stayed in Grigori and continued his monotonous and severe life as cannon fodder. Rainere's plan was too good to be true, but she believed her status would increase and she could have a good life if she followed Rainere's plan. She never thought they would poke a literally sleeping dragon, a celestial dragon at that. In the end, Miltet could only resign. What could she do? She was scared to die and the scary red dragon emperor. I just put my hand on her head, causing she to stare at me in surprise. When I withdrew my hand, her body was trapped in a big block of ice. Painless. With a snap of the fingers the block is destroyed, taking it out of existence. These bastards, they couldn't kill him. The curse brought Gilgamesh out of his thoughts. He turned and saw Valerie standing. Blood covered most of her body, her legs trembled and her skin looked paler, while sweat also soaked her figure. It was clear she could barely stand upright now. She clearly has not recovered from her last battle. But that's not what caught her attention. It was the person she was holding. She was a beautiful blonde girl who trembled with fear, wearing nothing but a sleeveless white shirt that reached to her knees. This girl was the excommunicated nun. She is a very young girl, with long blonde hair and green eyes. Her body measurements are B83 rightward arrow 85 W55 H81 rightward arrow 83 cm, her height is 155 cm 5 feet 1 inch and her body weight is 44 rightward arrow 45 kg 97 rightward arrow 98 pounds. Her hair flows down her back, with bangs split across her forehead and a strand sticking out of the top and leaning back. Her old main costume consisted of a dark nun's outfit with light blue accents, a white veil over her head with light blue accents, a brown bag hanging on her right hip, where she holds the Bible, and brown boots with black straps. X-shaped pattern. She also wore a silver cross necklace around her neck. It was Asia Argento, the girl he came to save. Ha! That was your last chance, boy. Valerie mocked him smugly. Don't move. She screamed as her hand glowed and placed it close to Asia's neck, ready to shoot light and kill her. If you move I kill the girl. She yelled menacingly. Gilgamesh grimaced at this, grinding his teeth angrily as he clicks his tongue in disgust. Upon seeing this, Valerie slowly developed a sickly smile on her face before falling into an ugly snarl. You ruined everything. She said, the anger in her voice clear. You ruined my whole plan. My plan for Azazel-sama. You destroyed the chance for me to be loved by him. She screamed in pure hate and with a hint of despair. Gilgamesh remained silent and looked at her, his expression still stoic. I had to agree with Cockabille's suggestion and follow his orders, even though I knew it was weird and there was something wrong with it. But I decided to follow him because I knew that if I succeeded, Azazel-sama would look out for me. He would love me. He would praise me and see me as a worthy person. Pity. This was certainly not what Gilgamesh had expected to feel for her. But now after seeing her like this, he felt nothing but pure pity for the fallen angel. But you just got here, invading and destroying everything. Plus, you even made my fellow fallen angels betray me. Me. I'm Valerie of the Grigori. Valerie declared her title with a mixture of anger and madness in her tone, and worse. You're only human, but you have so much power. How? You're just a cursed creature. Your kind even commits darker sins than we do. And still. You have so much power. Envy. It was clear that this woman had fallen out of envy. Even if she didn't say, Gilgamesh knew. Seeing her behavior and words, it was more than enough for him to know. I'm going to kill her, do you hear me? Valerie pulled Asia's hair sharply and the girl let out a cry of pain. Even if you kill me, at least I'll kill her first. You'll know the taste of despair and hatred for failing. Just like me. Die like no one. You'll get to know the taste of despair and hatred for failing. Just like me. Will despair. For the sake of Azazel-sama and the Grigori. She screamed in pure insanity, her pretty face disappeared and was replaced by an expression of pure malice and a wicked smile. Gilgamesh showed no outward reaction to her words. Her face was still hard when he turned to Asia. Asia Argento, right? Gilgamesh asked in English, knowing the girl was a foreigner, there was no way to speak Japanese. The girl in question managed to nod weakly, showing that she understood him and answered his question at the same time. Don't worry, I'll save you. He smiled slightly. Asia didn't know, but something inside her told her she could trust him. I believe you, Asia said with a smile. Valerie, who had been listening in on the conversation, had her smile wavering and it was replaced by pure hatred. How dare this human? Even now he is still looking at her. He will pay. Watch her die, human. She screamed as the glow of light in her hand began to intensify and squelch. Valerie lowered her head and saw a sword was embedded in her right chest. Looking at Gilgamesh she saw a golden portal beside it and with a sword coming out. Quickly Gilgamesh appeared in front of her and kicked her away, scooping Asia into her arms and hugging her. Close your eyes, I'll take care of it, said Gilgamesh to Asia, who granted her request. Gilgamesh began to advance towards Valerie with hatred. All the fallen could do was crawl across the ground. Appearing in front of her, Gilgamesh grabbed her neck and lifted her to her height. Do you dare hurt someone I want to protect? Do you dare, insect? Know that I will kill anyone who thinks of getting their hands on my friends, said Gilgamesh with his face in pure rage. Then Gilgamesh's hand ignited in flames that began to completely burn Valerie's body, even her soul, erasing her from existence. Such was the power of the flames in purgatory. Hiro-san. Gilgamesh turned to the girl behind him. The girl was facing her rescuer with big green eyes filled with concern. Are you okay? She asked softly, still in English, and Gilgamesh blinked in surprise. That's my line, said Gilgamesh, are you okay? Gilgamesh asks with a smile. I'm fine. Hiro-san saved me, so I'm fine. The girl stuttered a little and Gilgamesh laughed in response. Anyway, let's get out of here. Oh, and you should wear this. He gave the girl a red cape with gold accents that she took from the gate of Babylon. She was able to cover her body better than the sleeveless shirt she was wearing, he could even see a nipple poking for screaming out loud. Asia stared at the cover for a moment before noticing her outfit and her eyes widened. She let out an eep, and quickly rips off the cloak like a kitten that was hungry for food and used it to cover itself. Gilgamesh just chuckled at that as he shook his head in amusement. Then he grabbed Asia's shoulder and caught her bridal style, causing her to let out another eep, while her blush grew even more. You could compare her face to a tomato right now. Hiro-san. This is dash. Oh, don't protest, princess. At the end of a story, all heroes save the princess by carrying her bridal style, so accept it, okay? Gilgamesh said playfully with a smile. To the boy's surprise, Asia blinked with a genuinely confused look. She looked thoughtful and tilted her head to one side. Really? Does it work like that? She asked, not really knowing. Yes. Gilgamesh responded as he shook his head up and down. Oh okay then. If Hiro-san says that, then I believe you. She stated as she stuttered a little and her blush made her expression even cuter. Gilgamesh could barely stop himself from falling to his knees due to the cuteness she was displaying and overloading his mind. Where are we going? Asks Asia curiously. Gilgamesh looks at her with a smile. To your new family, Gilgamesh said as he left the church. So the maiden was rescued, not by a simple hero, but by their king some hours later. It had been some time since Gilgamesh rescued Asia and took her home. There everyone received the little girl very well, with Sabas and Gilgamesh preparing a feast for her of foods she had not tasted. Everyone was talking calmly, well, almost everyone. And that brings us to our current situation. Somehow Gilgamesh had managed to pin Mordred to the ground by pinning both arms behind her back and was now swatting at her hair with his good hand while the other held her. Probably the best he ever intervened. Mordred looked like she was about to tear down the entire block if he didn't abandon her. Oh wait. As he approached, Gilgamesh grinned and yelled at the enraged knight, leaping nimbly to an adjacent roof just out of reach before his blade encountered something soft. Hey! Leave my pieces alone, Mordred. I need them, you know. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to stop Mordred. Get down here and I'll cut them down, bastard. Gilgamesh's body twitched playfully. Scary. I don't want. Why are you? Mordred. Mordred didn't flinch when Sabas yelled at her, but she growled. For a fleeting moment, Sabas wondered if she would disobey. Hey, Gilgamesh. That's not fair. He started it. Never mind. You can shove it full of holes if he does it again. Mordred got a murderous meow. Promise. Gilgamesh squeaked from his precarious perch. What are you, a sadist? I'm not immortal. This will kill me. But soon after that a smile crossed Gilgamesh's face. It's because you can't do it now, said Gilgamesh defiantly. Cursed, shouts Mordred as she summons Clarent and rushes at Gilgamesh, who has also taken up a sword. Both slashed at each other as they exchanged blows. Meanwhile Asia was nervously watching everything. Valerie appeared and placed a hand on Asia's shoulder to calm her down. Don't worry, they won't get hurt, says Valerie with a smile. Asia nodded as she trusted Valerie as she was with the man who rescued her. But Valerie's smile soon widened as she pulled out a magazine, who knows where, and handed it to Asia. Now read this, Valerie said with a big smile. Asia started reading before realizing what it was. That's Sis, she says nervously as she blushed. Gilgamesh and Mordred stopped beside Asia, as they had stopped fighting due to Sabas hitting them both. Gilgamesh saw Asia's face and doubtfully picked up the magazine and began to read. He widened his eyes when he saw what was in the magazine. This is porn, Valerie, Gilgamesh says accusingly to dump her. Mordred stares at Valerie in shock. You pervert, you won't corrupt Asia, shouts Mordred as she picks up Clarent again. Oh, don't be like that, I wouldn't mind exploring the corridors of Camelot with you, if you know what I mean, says Valerie with a sensual smile. Mordred took a while to understand what Valerie meant, but after that she began to blush furiously before picking up Clarent and charging at Valerie. The result? Valerie running away from an angry Mordred while laughing. Asia nervously staring at everything and Gilgamesh and Inkija watching everything as they giggle as Sabas chasing after them both. Later it happened after midnight. Gilgamesh was thirsty and woke up at 3:14 am, so he decided to go to the kitchen, not to mention that he also felt the need to go to the bathroom. When he was having a drink from the kitchen, I saw Asia in the backyard, just standing there, looking up at the moon in the sky above. What was she doing at this hour? Curiosity rose in her stomach and mind, so I decided to approach her. Just in case there's something wrong. Still awake too, hi. Gilgamesh called her and she turned to me with a surprised look. Simply put, Asia was a pretty girl. Her long blonde hair that was waving in the breeze, her emerald green eyes and the shape of her face all made her beautiful. And she was different from Rias. This girl might be pretty, but there was something that made her not really attractive in my eyes. It was her aura. The aura she radiated was big, strong, and now I knew it also contained pride. As much as it was hidden under that good aura, there was something dark, something vile, and definitely not good. That's why I wasn't so attracted to her, maybe because it was characteristic of her as a devil. However, Asia was different. She was beautiful, not as pretty as Rias perhaps, but the aura she radiated was different. It was pure. I could feel it. It was pure, gentle, and also warm. Her presence somehow brought a calm, comfortable feeling to me. Instead of seeing a simple girl, it almost seemed to see an angel standing in the middle of a grassy field, pure white wings spreading beautifully, the wind touching her hair. If you asked me who was more handsome, Asia Argento or Rias Gremory, the answer is obvious. Even if you compared her to Sana, my answer would still be Asia Argento. And mostly Asia's aura reminded me of her. Hiro-san. Asia greeted me in surprise. Somehow did I wake you up? I'm sorry if don't be like that, I just woke up because I was thirsty. Gilgamesh cut her off as he waved his hand slightly and started to approach her. And you can call me Gilgamesh, I won't mind. Gilgamesh added, but didn't Hiro-san say it would be a rule to call you by his name? She asked innocently. I also said that for a pretty girl like you, it's okay to break that rule. Gilgamesh said with a small smile as she blushed a little before shaking her head. I can't do that. It's not right for me to get special treatment. She replied softly and I felt like sighing. This girl really was innocent, wasn't she? She was almost like a sponge. I was just playing with these rules, but she really believed it was real. So how about I let you in because you're my friend? Gilgamesh asked and she blinked. Friend. Then her eyes go blank, along with her expression. It was if she didn't know the meaning of the word friend. It was if that word never existed in her life. Hiro-san, want to be, friend me? She asked and tilted her head to the side, her face still blank. That face didn't suit her. That expression didn't suit her. Girls like her, shouldn't have that expression. A girl with pure aura and nature like her. This emotion shouldn't be in her heart. Yes, I will be your friend. Why? Don't you want to? Gilgamesh asked back with a small frown as he looked at her with a confused face. Asia's blank stare is gone, replaced by sheer panic and a small amount of fear not. She shook her head and shook her head It's just. She lowered her face so I couldn't see her expression. That someone like Hiro-san, wants to befriend me is. And what's wrong with making friends with you? Gilgamesh asked again. You're a pretty girl, kind-hearted and also kind. Who in their right mind wouldn't want to befriend you? Asia looked at him shocked. Her green eyes widened and I could see there were unshed tears beneath them before her expression was replaced by a bitter smile. Hiro-san. Do you know my story? She asked me softly. Yes, I don't know any details other than that you were excommunicated due to the cure, that devil. I told her and notice her muscle tense. This. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. Gilgamesh cut her off again and I placed my hand on her shoulder, making her look at me. Giving her a small smile, I continued. I want to be friends with you. I don't care about your past. It's because you're a nice girl who also seemed fun to talk to. But I don't have common sense, I've never lived outside the church before. Asia told me with watery eyes. It was if she was trying to reject me, but at the same time she didn't want to either. This is an easy thing to fix, you'll learn in time. I'll help you. I can't even speak Japanese, Hiro-san. We're speaking Japanese now, didn't you notice? Gilgamesh asked with a smile and his eyes widened. We are. She asked back. How? Magic. Gilgamesh replied simply and it was true. Gilgamesh had already learned a spell that allowed me to speak in any language. Asia looked surprised by this before slowly letting out a small laugh. It sounded beautiful. However, Gilgamesh spoke again and caught her attention. Being friends with me won't be easy. Gilgamesh said, as you see, I am a hero. And heroes will always have enemies. If you are my friend, my enemies can target you, Gilgamesh declared and his eyes widened. You want to have a normal life, don't you? I can tell you. But if you're my friend, you won't have any of that. In truth, Gilgamesh wanted to say more, but found his throat dry for a moment. Everything I said before was true, but it was just the tip of an iceberg. It wasn't even deep enough to get to the heart of my situation, but seeing his expression, seeing his eyes filled with hope of living a normal life like all students and teenagers. However, during his break, Asia surprisingly gave him another smile. It wasn't as radiant as before, as it was filled with bitterness. I I don't think I'll ever have a normal life, Hiro-san. Not anymore. She spoke bitterly. You're, like me, aren't you, Hiro-san? You're talented. Ah. She understood. She understood what Gilgamesh was trying to say. Yes. Like you, I also have a gift from God. But unlike you, mine is not healing but destroying. Taking life. Gilgamesh replied in a calm tone, his face twisted into an impassive expression. Asia laughed. It was really impossible to start wishing for a normal life, wasn't it? She asked again in a voice of resignation. Yes, we are chosen people in Asia. Unlike others, we are born with this gift and power. And as people say, power will always attract other power. It is impossible to live like normal people if people want to around us would be in danger. Gilgamesh told her with a nod. But you already know that. Is that why you were reluctant to be my friend? I asked. No. She shook her head. I knew deep down that I could be your friend. But I just... You are afraid to abandon your dream. Gilgamesh finished for her and her eyes widened. If you are my friend, you will no longer have a normal life. You still had the hope of living like normal people, but that chance will be lost if you become my friend, Gilgamesh declared. However, at the same time, so do you. You don't want to be alone anymore, right? Gilgamesh asked softly and Asia lowered her head, sobs slowly coming out of her mouth. Gilgamesh-san, it's really impossible, isn't it? She asked in a heartbroken tone. She also used my name, indicating that she will finally accept that her dream of a normal life was impossible. It almost made me shed tears for her, but I didn't. I held on tight and felt strong, this girl needed me. I couldn't show any signs of weakness now. Yet. I confirmed as I looked at the girl beside me and looked at the ground like there was something interesting there. We were silent. Seconds passed and turned into minutes. Then, 5 minutes later, she looked away from the floor and lifted her head to look at me again. I don't have a choice, do I? She asked sadly. We always have a choice. I told her and closed my eyes. No matter what, we will always have a choice. The question is, are we ready for the consequences of our choice? It can lead to our death, but sometimes death itself is better than the other option. Asia looked at me with an impassive look. Then she tilted her head to one side before smiling, that smile was sincere. Then I choose to accept your offer. She said softly, maybe I can't have a normal life but... That doesn't mean I can't have friends. Good choice. I replied with a small smile, our adventures will not be easy, Asia. I know, but I'll stay with you. Asia said with a nod of understanding and I laughed. We spent some time looking at the sky. I think you better go sleep, Asia, I say to the girl. Yes, but what about you, she asks as she gets up. I'll stay a little longer, I say to her who nods her head. I continued looking at the sky for a while. Seeing Asia reminded me of someone else. Gabriel. I say, but my voice is a whisper. Awake master, came a voice behind me and as I turned around I saw Mordred standing there eating a cookie. Starving. Yes, and why are you awake? I ask. Could I ask the same question? Mordred says with a laugh as she sits beside me and starts gazing at the stars. We were silent for a while until Mordred spoke. I think you were right about that conversation, master, said Mordred. I hesitated until I remembered what she was talking about. Gilgamesh and Mordred were talking while fighting in the dungeon. Hey Mordred, did I hear your wish was to take Caliban off the stone, asks Gilgamesh as he unleashes a wave of ice freezing the devils. Mordred, who was cutting them with Clarence, stopped and looked at Gilgamesh. Exactly, so when I take her out my father should recognize me as king, says Mordred firmly. But what will you do when you become king, asks Gilgamesh. I don't know, says Mordred with her head down. I think you already know, you just don't see it, says Gi. I'm not seeing, asks Mordred in doubt. Gilgamesh nods his head before summoning a sword and starting to slay the devils. I remembered that conversation I had with Mordred. I just wanted to become king to save my father from isolation, he was someone who couldn't laugh or cry. If I became king he wouldn't have to go through this anymore. I thought it was enough if I tried to pick up the things he left. Mordred talked as she looked up at the stars and I just listened to her. I now understand. My father did not wish for gems to shine like stars, he became king for the sake of these stones. That's why I don't need the squad's sword, I don't need it anymore, says Mordred, smiling. I listened all the time they're talking and couldn't help but smile. I'm not one to say that, let alone follow someone, but you would have made an excellent king, Mordred, I say as I place a hand on her shoulder. Mordred blushed before grinning. Of course you do, master, said Mordred, smiling. We stayed a little longer while watching the STA another day. Student council room. I took another sip of the surprisingly good cup of tea. I had no idea what kind of brand the leaves were, but they tasted fantastic considering I got this from the student council's personal stash, though I doubted Sana would have minded. Despite the lights being turned off, the student council room was lit up thanks to the wide windows who filled the entire face of one wall. Even though it was only 7 in the morning, it was already a clear, sunny day. I was sitting in a corner out of the way as I waited for the rest of the student council to arrive. You must be wondering why I'm here? This is simple. Sana called me here and said she wanted to talk to me, so I decided to come over early and surprise her. Are you sure, Kaiku? A voice signaled that my waiting time was finally over, when I heard the steady pace of footsteps approaching the door. Yes, Tsubaki. I just need a minute to deal with something myself. The doorknob turned and the door opened a little. Please make sure repairs are done before the start of the school day. I understand, Kaiku. Tsubaki replied before I heard her walk away. The student council door opened the rest of the way and Sana entered. She didn't seem to have noticed me as she immediately closed the door behind her before leaning her back against it and closing her eyes. The only sound that filled the room was the thud of Tsubaki's footsteps as they moved away, and when she finally disappeared, the place was plunged into silence. I was about to call Sana and publicize my presence when something happened that gave me pause. Sana, from where she was still leaning against the door, started to laugh. It started out as something quite low that could barely be heard, but it quickly grew. It soon got to the point where Sana couldn't contain herself any longer and she just relented, threw back her head and just laughed. Her maniacal laughter echoed off the walls of the council room as I just stared at her, perplexed, not knowing what was going on or what to do. After that, it continued for what seemed like a full minute before she finally began to mix her laughter with the words. Ha 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 ha, feel Rias, feel. Yes. 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 Ha 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 ha, she said before starting to trust her waist. I had to rub mine to make sure I wasn't seeing things, but rather Sana Satrai, who was perhaps one of the most tense people I knew, relying on her hip as she interjected between each thrust a yell of burn. 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 I looked into my tea and checked for drugs with my magic, but it came back negative. I checked it again, but when the results stayed the same, I gave up on denying reality and just looked back and gaped. Can you feel it, Rias? Can you feel the weight? Did I say you can feel it? It was at that exact moment, right in the middle of a hip pressure, that Sana saw me sitting in the corner. She stopped, immobilized in place, as her eyes widened and her face paled as she glared at me with a perfect deer in headlights look. Unfortunately for her, she froze in the last position she occupied, which was in mid-hip pressure. Which meant she had her arms behind her with her elbows bent and her groin was pushed forward toward a spot on the wall a little to my right. What I wouldn't give to have a camera here, or better to show Sirafal Leviathan. For what felt like an hour, we just stared at each other, neither of us quite sure what to say, before I felt a big shit-eating grin on my face. Oh, don't mind me, I said calmly as I leaned back in my chair and crossed my legs before nodding for her to continue. Go on, this sounds important. I'll wait. Deliberately I lifted my cup to my lips and took a long drink as I watched he times R, doing my best not to laugh. She just gaped at me, so shocked that her face went pale white before her embarrassment kicked in and she started to turn red. 3, that's not, I mean, don't think that, she started to stammer nonsense at me as her mind tried and failed to figure out something to say. Deciding to feel sorry for her, I just held up my hand and motioned for her to stop. Don't bother explaining, I said, you can stop holding that pose now. Sana looked down and her face, which was slowly starting to return to its normal color, turned red again as she realized she was still in the hip thrust position and quickly straightened. I took a few more seconds to compose myself before asking, so what happened? It must have been a big thing for you to act so excited so soon, and what does that have to do with Gremory? By this time, Sana had that strict librarian personality firmly in place, only the light dust of her checks showing any sign of emotion. But let's be honest, after seeing her behave like this, I'll never fall in love with her strict act again. She gave a single cough to her fist before speaking. Yeah, actually, I just got some pretty amazing news. She walked towards the table that held supplies of coffee and tea. And it would be more accurate to say someone happened than something. Oh, feeling my interest rise in spite of me, and who is that someone? Hyudu say. My expression darkened. Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of Hyudu, not only because of the perversion, something I still didn't understand as possible. Of course in the novel he improves a lot and Do times SNT becomes so perverted, but still. The reason is mainly because of his actions. I have no doubt that if Rias asked he would become a devil right away. It pissed me off that he would throw his humanity away for this, throwing something so important away for a simple pair of boobs. So I didn't save it, and I got boosted gear. Of course I could make better use of it. Too bad I gave the 3 sacred gears to him. The first sacred gear I gave him was a simple twice critical that allowed its wearer to temporarily double their power. If mastered, Issei could increase even 5 times, although it's useless as Issei needs to boost 8 times to reach the level of a Rook of the Riser. The second sacred gear I gave him was Night Reflection, which has the ability to absorb attacks using shadows and redirect them in any direction the user wishes from any shadow in the sacred gear's area of influence. It can create shadow monsters to attack opponents, change user shapes on blades and spears to attack enemies, form a shadow barrier shield around user and others. User can submerge in shadows and reappear in others, also entangled enemies and linking their movements, a very powerful sacred gear if used correctly. And the last one was the Flame Shake, granting the user the ability to use pyrokinetic abilities, conjuring white flames from the hands and firing at the target. Presumably these flames burn hotter than normal fire but are useless against those with a higher resonance of fire, like dragons and members of the Phoenix clan. Separated they are strong, but if mastered and used together they can be even stronger. I have no doubt that if Issei masters the 3 perfectly he will get power equal to an ultimate class devil, or at least a high class one, but it will need a lot of training. You don't like it? Sana says. I don't like the way Rias tried to get close to him and me, he tells Sana. Help yourself, Sana said after seeing that I wasn't going to continue. I personally thought the whole thing was a stupid idea. You did. It's too risky. She responded with a nod. Leaving the ethics issue out, the plan is flawed at a fundamental level. There are too many variables, too many forces at play that are beyond Rias' control to justify the risk. According to the plan, which is unlikely, there remains the question of what would happen if Issei and you found out that Rias let you both die. Like it happened to you. If it were me, I would have handled this situation in a completely different way. How would you have done that then? Simple, I would have recruited him to the student council. It wouldn't have been too hard to convince him to see that most of our members are girls, and I would have forced him to behave by threatening to kick him out. Year of spying on all the girls. An unpleasant frown crossed her face as she said this, although whether it was for spying or for something else, it was anyone's guess. It would have been easy to convince him and it was well within my power to expel him out from this school, but also from every other school in the country. That I actually have enough genuine reasons to justify expulsion, that made it easier. Rias, it's the only reason he hasn't been kicked out yet. I would observe him for a period of 6 months or more, keeping our identity as devils a secret. During that period, I would try him to see if he could be safely integrated into my peerage. It would all depend of course on how well he got along with the rest of the council and how strong the ties are between them. If he failed, I'd just kick him out. No matter how big the prize. It's not worth recklessly risking my peerage's life, especially when it comes to something as dangerous as it's out of control. Dragon. On the other hand, had he passed, I would have briefed him with the knowledge that devils can legally obtain harems, and then spent the rest of the year turning his weak body into shape with a promise to send him to one of the many underworld brothels as a reward. Overall, it will be a long-term investment, with low risk and high return. In other words, my preferred method of trading. If it was that easy, why didn't Gremory do the same? I asked. She grimaced. You have to understand, Gilgamesh, Rias has always been lucky when it comes to her peerage, and I mean insanely. I would have understood if she had done some work and spent time and effort looking for peerage. But she never did. Needed, it was as if the hand of some god guided them to her. Each and every one of her companions seemed to fall into her lap, with only one finger raised. To make the matter even more unbelievable, each of them has a mighty sacred gear or a mighty bloodline. She began counting them, raising a finger for each example. Kiba has the rebirth of the Holy Gear Sword, Konako is a Nico Shao, Akeno has the blood of a powerful fallen angel as well as that of the Heimjima clan, and then Gasper a Dumper with rare Daywalker ability and the sacred gear that is one step away from being a Long Inus, the Forbidden Baler View. Rias never had to work to convince any of them to join her. Half of them were dead or dying when she found them and the other half had nowhere to go back and they were more or less homeless orphans. On your date the same day you met them, that's really true, it's so weird that Rias has them all that it's scary. For example, how did Rias know Akeno was being stalked? How she managed to find the girl in the middle of the entire underworld. And with Kiba, as Rias, a girl, she managed to enter and find the church's secret territory and was there just at the time of Kiba's death. And with Gasper when he fled the Teeps faction, what was Rias doing in vampire territory, which is enemy territory? With Konako it's worse as Surtsks basically took Konako and handed it to Rias on a platter. I honestly don't think it's weird that maybe Surtsks has something to do with it. Rias never had to work to convince any of them to join her. Half of them were dead or dying when she found them and the other half had nowhere to go back and they were more or less homeless orphans. On your date the same day you met them. The reason she's so excited about Issei and you is because she has no idea how to recruit you both. I wouldn't be surprised if she spent most of the year waiting for a perfect moment to jump in and rescue them. She shrugged as I stared at her. Now don't look at me like that. It may seem silly to us, but to Rias, she just doesn't know any other way. It probably never occurred to her to just approach you guys and try to become friends first. Besides, Rias is very aware of her luck, so she probably expected it to kick in some way and give her an opportunity to rescue and recruit both of you like she usually does. So what happened? Behold, a fallen angel appears threatening Issei and you, and now she has the perfect chance to come in and rescue you. She shook her head, incredulous at the situation. She could do it another way. I think even devils wouldn't like an angry Longinus user. I tell her. Think about it, Issei is the supposed wielder of the booster gear and you demonstrated to have a sacred gear Longinus. Although they don't like it, it makes you a serious threat to them. Worse, in their opinion, you can become a weapon to be used against them. If some other faction or even other pantheons have reached it, and seeing how the Fallen had already discovered it, they feared that the others would soon follow. I finished for her. It made sense, the Fallen had already taken over Divine Dividing along with Canis Lycaon and even Absolute Demise, and the angels had me, at least before, so the church had two other Longinus by her side, the Zenith Tempest and the Regulus Nemia, thus making the devil faction much weaker by not having any Longinus. At my words, a smile began to grow on Sana's face. Well, if you're still upset about the way Rias handled Issei, you're going to love this news. I raised an eyebrow at this. Does it have anything to do with why you were in a good mood when you walked in and why you wanted Gremory to feel? Though she blushed slightly at that, her smile didn't fade a bit. You need to understand that even though Rias is one of my dearest friends whom I really love, she's still been driving me crazy for the past week. She took every opportunity to rub it in my face that she was about to receive two Longinus users in her peerage. Though she didn't. Or how wrong I was for wanting to kick out the perverted trio and how right she was for wanting them to stay. Sana reached out her hands and held them in front of her like she was about to strangle something. It got to the point where I just wanted to strangle that pretty throat of hers. Her smile looked more than a little strained when she said that. In fact, it was starting to look scary. But then, her smile turned 180 and became much more genuine. I heard the most wonderful news before I arrived. I just met Kiba on the way to morning training and found out what happened to Issei. What? I asked, more than a little concerned about the child. Something went wrong? They didn't stop resurrecting him, did they? Oh no, no, no. Sana's smile turned into a wide grin. Nothing went wrong. Quite the contrary. In fact, everything went according to plan. The Fallen killed Issei, Rias appeared at the last second and successfully resurrected him as a pawn, as she wanted. I don't see why you're so happy about this. Sana's smile was still firmly in place, and she continued. Ah, but I still haven't told you the best part. It seems that the shock and pain of his injuries caused Issei to awaken his sacred gear before he died. Ah, I understood what was making Sana so happy. I couldn't help suppressing a smile. He awakened your sacred gear. Her smile, if possible, widened even further when her glasses seemed to glow in the sunlight. However, it turns out that the sacred gear he awakened wasn't the booster gear, not even another Longinus. She paused, clearly trying to extract the moment before continuing. It was twice critical. I gave it my all not to smile at that. Rias was so sure Issei had the boosted gear that she didn't expect this one. Of course Issei originally had it, but not now. Actually Rias didn't know Hakuryuakao was with Grigori, so she thought Issei had the boosted gear or the divine dividing, so when I showed up with Drake's power she thought Issei would be Hakuryuakao. She was so sure of something like that. But it seems that Issei only managed to wake up twice critical and not the others. His body and mind are much weaker than I imagined. Sana laughed, honest with the laughter of the Satan witch, at my reaction before speaking. A piece of pawn, just a despicable pawn Gilgamesh. It wasn't even a mutant, but a completely regular pawn. This is even worse because twice critical should automatically double a person's value, meaning that Issei's basic stats don't even are valued at half pawn. Damn it, my rival, now you can finally feel it. Oh Rias, it rubbed in my face that she had been buying a Longinus for so long, making me burn with envy and anger at how I could have missed it, only to have it turn into the twice critical. Worse, she ended up with one of the perverted trio on your date. Sana opened her hands in glee. I'm so happy with that boy that I'm not kicking out the other two. They'll be a reminder of this day, and whenever I'm in a bad mood, I'll just look at them and think about this moment and laugh. What she went on to do just that. I couldn't help but laugh with her. And from what looked like 3 sacred gears it took only one pawn to resurrect it. Honestly, this is disappointing. Now don't get me wrong Gilgamesh, I love Rias, but sometimes it seems like she's still very lucky when it comes to peerage members. That for the first time, just once, her luck deserted her, finally made things fair. I just want to join her in club and start laughing in front of her, Sana says before bursting out laughing. We both laughed for a long time after that. Some time later. After lots of laughs with Sana I go back to my house. Looks like Valerie wanted to see me and had something amazing to show. When I get there I see that everyone is in the garden. Finally in master, says Mordred as she tapped his foot. Sorry for the delay, I say. Did you say you had something awesome to show? I ask. Asia nods, quickly explaining, well, we were worried about you and Sabas's most powerful weakness in dragon-type weapons, at least against ours, and we wanted to work on fixing it. Can you show him, Inkiju-san? A professional nod from my friend has a flash of light in front of him, a curved hawk-like blade in his open palms, and I immediately feel my eyebrow twitch violently as I look at the thing. So someone's ass is wrinkling just looking at that thing. Inkiju blinks at my unconventional description before shrugging to himself, explaining, this is a dragon slayer sword I know how to make. Normally, this would easily cut any of us, especially you and Sabas, right? Yes. Valerie suddenly laughs, winking at me as she does. Well, look what I did. Without preamble, Mordred, who has taken Inkiju's sword, approaches Sabas and swings the sword at his torso. And without blinking, we see it ricochet off his abdomen, smiling as Inkiju dissipates the sword without further comment. That's it dash ha ha, yeah it was me. Valerie offers a peace sign of all things before proudly puffing out her chest, don't stare, Gilgamesh, and informs me, I've finally managed to change things using my sacred gear. Of course, it's simple things like removing super obvious weaknesses. But I think I can start to improve now. Holy crap! In just a few months, hell, in just a few weeks, Valerie learned to correctly change very fundamental things about our bodies. Has the power curve in this world always been so broken? I feel like the dumb kid in the classroom for taking more than 10 years to reach my level. Putting those thoughts aside, I smile, announcing, well, that's the best news I've heard today. Hey, do you think you could make me next? Slightly weird phrases. She doesn't seem to understand the insinuation, just smiling and announcing, of course. Just give me a moment here. Advancing, the dumper puts her hands on my chest, closing her eyes and concentrating deeply when she suddenly starts mumbling to herself, almost like she's in some kind of trance. I don't feel any difficulties, fuck you cold. Changing your soul is a very unusual experience. And by unusual, I mean, it feels freezing, for some bizarre reason. Judging by Sabas's confused look at my shuddering reaction, he hadn't suffered anything like that. Jesus, looks like someone put some ice cubes in my heart and stomach. My teeth start chattering when Valerie finally finishes her work and gives me a confused look. She stares for a few awkward moments, and just as I'm about to ask if something went wrong with the process, she gets a bright smile, happily stating, okay, you're ready Gilgamesh. Totally immune to Dragon Slayer weapons. Inkiju? Before I can say I'm not ready for this, my knight swings that blade curves in my arm, and with a dull pain as if someone had hit me with a 2 to 4 blow, the sword ricocheted, not a slight bruise on my flesh. Well, I'll be cursed, it really worked. Gritting his teeth, reaching out and patting Valerie on the head, the dumper chuckles to himself as he compliments her with, well, this is just outstanding work you've done today, Valerie. All of you too, this is a big step forward for front. We GGRRROOWWWLLL. I'm silent as we all stare at Valerie, the dumper's face slowly turning red with embarrassment. Using my sacred gear might have made me a little, hungry. We all burst out laughing as Valerie pouts, one porcelain cheek huffing in irritation until she finally catches her breath to ask, well, in that case, does anyone feel like steak, potatoes, and salad? Inkiju immediately perks up and asks, oh, can we do it? Valerie looked horrified and says, no way, we have to have something else today. Mordred gives a big smile, yes, let's make hamburgers. An argument quickly breaks out and I approach Asia, the girl looking at the heated debate with a confused expression. What about you, Asia? Do you have any specific requests for the chef? She jumps, startled by my sudden question before hurriedly answering, oh, alright Gilgamesh, it's just, I've never eaten steak so I can't say one way or the other that way I would like. Laughing, I wrap an arm around her shoulders and reply good-naturedly, well, then tonight I'm going to have to make a special meal just for you. How's some meat cooked in between what these three want? For starters. Her eyes widen before she frantically shakes her hands, stammering, and no, I couldn't. Everyone has their own desires, I couldn't dash. She cuts herself off as I genuinely laugh at her rash words. Asia, what these three seem to be forgetting is that I have a big kitchen and a big freezer. Not to mention a little time on my hands. I can make 3 kinds of food, no problem. She blinks once at Dawn. And she blushes gracefully, replying, oh, right, I forgot. I smile at her, don't worry, we're having a feast today, I say as we walk into the house. Later. A healthy meal. Cleaning the last of the dishes next to my sensitive appliances, I stretch my back and am more than ready to surrender the night. Gilgamesh? Can I talk to you about something, kind of private? A wild dumper appears. Now is not the time for Pokemon references, brain. Smiling at Valerie as she shyly peeks her head around the kitchen door frame, I nod amiably, asking, "Sure, I'll be in the living room in just a moment." Blonde hair turns the corner as she hurries into the room mentioned, a slight frown turning my lips as I ponder what this conversation might entail. This has something to do with my soul, and why was it so cold when she changed it? Or did she discover something? There's only one way to find out. Following in his footsteps, I reach the sofa and the living room with sofas, a fire blazing in the fireplace when I see Valerie shifting nervously from one foot to the other, her hands clasped anxiously in front of her. And I'm pretty sure my brain needs to reset itself to see what she's wearing. A pure white doll dress that hangs from the shoulders, all in lace and see-through material with vanilla socks and garter belts to accentuate the creamy legs. I really hope this doesn't turn out to be some kind of dangerous, relationship-altering conversation, because most of the blood left my head for the other. Sorry brain. But you're running on the reserve fuel tank for now. That might seem like a pretty weird question, Gilgamesh, but are you, well, from this plane of existence? God, damn it. I really need to stop trying fate on this bitch. Letting out a monumental sigh, I sit on the edge of a nearby sofa, staring at my bishop as I ask, "It was something to do with my soul, wasn't it?" She nods in a slightly unsure movement. "Why yes, it looked like, how am I supposed to put it, unnatural? As if it wasn't something that would normally exist, crap and then additional crap." Slumping onto the bench like a sack of rocks, Valerie slowly joins me, tucking her legs under her, and I have the head to order her to wear something less provocative. God only knows I need every kind of concentration and intelligence I can muster right now. Carefully formulating my next question, I ask, "And what is it in my soul that didn't feel natural?" The dumper changes uncomfortably before answering quickly, I can hear voices at some point to use my sacred gear, and some of them are too far away, as if they spoke through many universes and unimaginable depths of space. His soul sounded a lot like theirs, and yet it was also so close. I don't know how to describe it anymore. My preoccupation with the current situation is abruptly dismissed, while his confession opens up a new branch of "oh shit." Can you hear voices? They're not forcing you to do anything, are they? To make decisions or choices you wouldn't normally make. She blinks once in obvious surprise before frantically waving her hands back and forth. "Oh, none of that. I mean, sure, some of the voices can be a bit rude or insistent, but it's a simple matter of tuning in or ignoring them." Her face turns a light shade of red, fingers shyly poking together. "And, well, the emotions and feelings I get from all of you through help a lot, acting like a beacon, almost when the voices get insistent or cacophonous." I let out a shuddering sigh of relief, worried that using the Sephiroth growl has already become too much for the dumper. "Okay, I'll take your word for it, but remember that previous users of Sephiroth growl have occasionally gone mad due to other souls and lives you can communicate with. Don't be afraid to tell us if things get a little overwhelming, okay?" A pure, uncomplicated smile crosses her doll face as she leans forward and places a quick kiss on my cheek, all glee as she replies, "I'll do it, you times re so sweet to worry about me." "Easy, Gilgamesh, we're still in the middle of a conversation here." Some of Valerie's glee evaporates when she gets back to the main topic, also pissing off my mood. "So, are you from this world?" "Screw this. And I suck at telling big lies. Little things? I am your man. I could convince the teacher that my friend's dog that didn't exist actually ate his homework, explain why I was late for class, think of an excuse for not going out last night and getting a good grade on the exam. A test I didn't do that well. But so do I have to lie about a relative's health, or explain why someone is breaking up with someone else? Forget it, I have all the deceptive talents of a little kid with his hand in the cookie jar. There's no way I can get a quick one now that I've been exposed. There's still an ice ball forming in the mouth of my gut that I have no control over. If this is such a sensitive subject, Gilgamesh, you need not tell me." Valerie's hesitant question seals the deal for me. "No, you deserve to know, okay, since you've clearly read all sorts of manga and other crap like that, are you familiar with the whole, transported to another world?" "Oh, you mean Ice Guy?" Sure. Well, to make a long story short, I'm practically from another world, as you guessed it." Valerie is quiet long enough to make me worry. And then a cry of joy almost deafens me at the time. "Oh my god, so are you an alien? Wait, what the fuck is this? How did you interpret this as me being so how much of this prophecy was really true?" She flashes me a smile, causing me to shiver. "Everything about saving the world is true, but the rest was a total lie. I was just worried that you thought I was absolutely nuts for suddenly opening up with, 'Hey, I'm a guy from the other world, come help me save this one.'" The dumper wisely nods before giving me a curious look. "Who were you in your previous world, Gilgamesh?" That particular question makes me snort. Someone who was just as bland, but no less unique, than anyone else. I had my own ups and downs, my own trials and tribulations, but at the end of the day, I was like any other human. One day I died and some goddesses of fate said they wanted me to make some changes to the way things were going to happen in this world. The rest is history. They gave me my powers and sent me to this world. Valerie seems transfixed by my tale, until she abruptly looks uncomfortable, asking hesitantly, so where do we fit in? Will you leave us and go back to your own world once your task is complete? What? Hell no. For starters, I'm enjoying having a real purpose here, having a task that will really mean something. And more than that, I don't want to leave you. Any of you. It puts her at ease, leaning her head on my shoulder, flooding my nostrils with the scent of freshly washed hair and skin, as she responds with relief. Why do you look so okay with what I did? I would bring an artificial and genuine happiness to a natural and aimless existence any day. Because that's what I had before you and Inkidger rescued me. A loveless family who saw me as resources to be used when convenient, or unworthy slaves who are not so good at expressing an opinion. Acting more on instinct than conscious thought at this point, I pull the young woman into an emotional embrace, stroking her hair as I let out a long, strained breath I'd been unconsciously holding. I think I might be the luckiest man in the world, having someone as understanding as you as one of my partners. She snuggles into my embrace, now looking much happier as she laughs lightly. Oh my god, what a flattery. No flattery involved, just truth. She lightly licks my neck, her pointed canines brushing my skin, and just like that, I'm suddenly reminded that there's an incredibly attractive woman dressed in an incredibly provocative outfit practically straddling my lap, nibbling on my jugular. The last few minutes have been quite disturbing. I wouldn't mind trying on some of these costumes if that's okay with you. Easy, brain, easy, I do it. Are you sure? Trust me, I'm not saying no. But you don't have to do this if you feel it's some kind of obligation. She gives one of those damnable giggles and blatantly replies, there's no obligation involved, just you and me. Oh. Well then. Smiling, I let my fingers that had been stroking her hair slide down her back, playing with the edges of her lingerie and lightly brushing her outrageously smooth skin, making the dumper squirm in pleasure. Well, you're always a little teasing, winking, and telling me you saw my fantasies, because it makes me want to eat you, right? That seems to be her switch, her entire body quivering with nervous excitement as she retorts seductively, I'm a bloodsucker, remember? I eat. Well, if you're a good girl, I can let you taste it. And with that I lean over and kiss her on the lips, my arms pulling her body against mine as the dumper moans in excitement. The taste and feel of it is unique. Traces of blood and honey dominate my senses and I eagerly explore my bishop's mouth, running my elongated tongue over her gums and teeth, wrapping her own muscle inside mine like a snake and making her whimper and laugh in equal parts excitement and fun. And all the while my left hand is free to explore her wonderfully curvy body. She has a supple, shapely form that's so hot I want to ravage every inch of her. We break apart just long enough to take a deep breath and shudder, and the emotion in her eyes makes me very excited about what's to come. Without missing a beat, I flip Valerie onto her back, legs spread as I hovered over her, my neck dangling in front of her jaw at a 45-degree angle. My fingers dance lightly over the straps holding her garters in place, loosening them as my hand wraps around the edge of her panties, pulling them out with a hard motion and making the dumper gasp, bright strands of fluid covering her pussy and interior thighs. Allow me, Valerie, let me make fun things for you. Before she has time to respond, a soft moan escapes her mouth, my fingers gently caressing the edges of her pussy, lightly teasing her labial folds while my other appendix gently squeezes and caresses her breasts, nipples visibly hard, even through the fabric of your lingerie. Gilgamesh, stop teasing me. She starts to squirm restlessly, prompting me to interrupt my breast massage in favor of putting my weight on my arm, trapping her and preventing her from moving as my fingers continue their fun dance. Ooh, you're kidding, dirty. I actually laughed at her playful complaint of hers, not missing how her pussy is dripping liquid at an amazing rate now that I've started really massaging her own inner flesh. Dirty, huh? I'll tell you something, Valerie, stay conscious until the next part and I'll let you drink all the blood you want from me, wake up. Oh, I like that. Smiling at her proposal, I tilt my hand so that it curves into an elongated C shape, the tips of my thumb and index finger sliding perfectly into her slit and making her gasp lightly as my rough skin brushes her clit. Let's see how she likes intense masturbation, right? I start to slowly move my hand up and down, moving every now and then from side to side as I stimulate every inch of her pussy, the dumper physically biting her hand to keep from moaning like a whore as her legs take hold around her. My hand. A sadistic smile crosses my lips as I briefly stop my actions, and then head into town. A muffled scream makes Valerie and her abdomen erect, prompting me to wrap her legs around my tail so that all she can do is push helplessly as I move my hand so fast it practically vibrates, giving her every possible surface of her flesh. Sensitive, a pleasurable massage, especially that bunch of protruding nerves. Judging by the way her red eyes widen when she whimpers through her fingers, it didn't take long. I give her a few seconds to rest, and then resume my previous actions with all the zeal I had before, the dumper practically sobbing in pleasure as her body twists and turns frantically, not finding too much relief as I hold her firm. Another orgasm, this time my bishop passes out where she rests, gasping for air as I kiss her passionately, muttering, well, you passed brightly, Valerie just breathless hissing, her pale skin flushed with heat and arousal. Here, drink. Offering my neck, I'm almost unhinged when she swings her legs around my waist, locking her arms behind my head as she whispers forcefully, okay, but only when you're inside me, oh, I would be happy to oblige. I swear, this dumper is very horny. Ripping my pants lets my dick jump, Valerie still clinging to my chest like a sexy, dripping monkey as I line up with her soaking entrance. Oh, I like the size of this. You'll like it even more when you're shaping your cunt, my dear dumper, now bite. Heeding my commands, the dumper slowly licks its lips, opening its mouth as its fangs gleam in the firelight. And she clamps down on my jugular hard as I even hilt on her burning walls at once. And on an impulse I took Valerie's virginity. Two screams, well, a scream and a muffled scream, echo throughout the room as the pleasure hits us like a truck, the feel of our connected genitals and the eccentric bridge through blood transfer as subtle and calm as a hurricane of Category 5. So much for being a gentleman, my hips following a plan of their own as I relentlessly slash at Valerie, not paying attention to my size or the discomfort my actions are no doubt causing her. Well, not that she looks that anguished, her red eyes clouded over in a frantic sucking of my neck, her only actions other than the deep, throaty moans of euphoria. Before long, I'm ready to explode, the feel of her walls sucking and sucking blood, making my cock swell and groin tighten as I prepare to burst. And one last push back completely frees my cock from the confines of her body, a strong jet of cum painting her navel and breasts in white streaks as the dumper removes his fangs and convulses in front of me, eyes rolling back in his head. A spray of clear liquid coats my abdomen. Fuck, that was good, although I should probably research some kind of morning after the spell, because the pull-out method isn't going to cut it with beauties as erotic as this. I laid Valerie gently on the couch, gathering her in my arms as she convulsed in the final flurries of passion, blood and saliva decorating her lips and chin. I wonder if you can get blue balls, even if you're constantly pumping the well, because I feel that way for sure. I really want to coat the inside of these girls. And by the way, it would be great if she started to get a little more used to several rounds. Oh well, there's a lot of time in the future for that to happen. I could get used to it. I laughed and nibbled lovingly at the pointy dumper ear, a satisfied buzz coming from the girl as I did so. Would I be beating a dead horse if I said I agree? Hee, considering you poke my thigh too hard, no you wouldn't. I cast a sad look at my still throbbing flesh. Can I go again if you want? Somehow I managed to bite a sigh. Not after that, you're not. It's not like I'm going to die, Valerie, we'd better take things slowly until you're more used to me. I don't miss the way she relaxes, even when she whispers in my ear, okay, but I'll be the first to let you know when I can handle this big old you're more than one thing instead. I chuckled and playfully pinched her ear. I swear, you protected guys are all so wild. Now that's fake. I roll my eyes and catch her bridal style, marching towards the baths. Christ just knows we need to and blatantly declares, well, rest while you can, because tomorrow I have something special in mind. She looks at me curiously. Special how? I smile and remain silent. When I leave here I'll kill you, Gilgamesh. I just watch Valerie run away from a group of mu-class demons in the dungeon. Well, I think you might want to know what's going on here, right? Let me start at the beginning. Right after Valerie and I woke up from our night, and that night, we went to the kitchen for breakfast, and found everyone but Asia with teasing smiles, and after a lot of laughs we went to the dungeon, except Sabas who preferred to be organizing the house. So me, Inkiju, Valerie, Mordred and Asia came to the dungeon as Mordred and I want to train and show Asia what real combat is like, only I accidentally ended up putting the mu-class fiends dungeon in, and that resulted in Valerie running away from them while threatening me. Make no mistake, Valerie is strong, she has power compared to ultimate class demons, but she can't do anything against dozens of mu-class demons, even with her long inus. After all, Sephiroth Grawl is not a combat-oriented long inus. Looking to the side I see Asia behind Inkiju, who simply crushes any being that approaches him with the chains of heaven. Mordred has already disappeared somewhere, though I feel her magical power destroying hundreds of other demon magical powers a few miles away. Another cool thing was that by having sex with Valerie I got a reward from a secret mission. That classic sex mission. Though I wasn't a virgin even before I met Valerie. What? You can't think I'd be in the DxD world for more than 10 years and not have sex with anyone. A world where the protagonist is almost incarnate lust itself. If I'm not mistaken I was 10 years old at the time, so it had been 4 years since I arrived in the DxD world. Come to think of it, it might have been a crime, after all I was 10 years old and the woman I had sex with was over 20. Not that it matters, of course I was on my guard right away. Magic is very useful after all. Back to the subject of the mission. Secret quest title, My Dumper. Description, conquer and have sex with Valerie Teeps. Reward, blood manipulation, time magic, 100,000 gold. First of all, I still think the system is very uncreative with the mission titles. Maybe when I get to level 100, where Saba said a lot of abilities are unlocked, the system will update. Now the skills. Name, blood manipulation. Type, active. Rarity, mega rare. Level, 02/100. Description, user can generate and manipulate blood from himself, from other beings or from his surroundings, whether from blood banks, hospitals, or battlefields. The user can also feel a heartbeat from miles away, turn blood to vapor or stone, and also burst veins in the body of a human or animal. In a way, the user can control living beings by manipulating their blood. Well, first of all, it seems that depending on who I have sex with, and fulfill a mission, I can get some abilities from that person. After all, Valerie has the ability to use blood manipulation. Because she is half vampire and half human, she has all the abilities of a normal vampire, without the sunlight weakness. Among them is the blood manipulation that Valerie can use. Honestly, I've seen her mold blood into stakes and use it to pierce her enemies. She looked like Vlad III, the Impaler. But she's not able to manipulate the blood inside other people's bodies. It seems like the user has to have a perfect mastery of this skill for that, probably at levels 90 to 100. Another thing I noticed about Valerie is her ability to absorb blood, which like every vampire she has. But Valerie's is special, because to some extent she is able to use some of the skills of the people she drank blood with. When she drank my blood, I saw her use dark magic, something that every vampire has punched to a greater degree than she normally used. I even saw her being able to use light magic. Hell, even the Hellblaze she was able to use it, but it seems this is only temporary. Now to the next one. Name, time magic. Type, active. Rarity, mega rare. Level, 05/100. Description, this magic attribute allows users to have a bit of time manipulation, but it doesn't instantly age someone or paralyze them. Basically, this type of magic allows the user to steal a person's lifespan and use that time for various purposes, from restricting enemies by putting them in time loops, healing wounds by turning their body back to a previous moment, speeding up their time so they can move almost instantly, plus you can use the time to see possible endings for certain events. Firstly, there is a difference between time magic and time manipulation. Time manipulation is absolute, as the user can manipulate the time however they want without limitations. But the magic of time doesn't reach that level. Basically, with it I'm able to steal a person's lifetime and use that time freely. I can speed up, slow down, or stop the flow of time until it's almost stopped. It is basically the same magic as Julius Navacrono from the Black Clover anime. Although not as powerful as time manipulation, with this spell I am able to avoid almost any attack, as everything is affected by time, even power of destruction and light magic among other abilities. I'm also able to speed up the time flow of an aging person or speed up around me to predict and anticipate attacks. And it's very useful because most supernatural beings live almost eternally. Gilgamesh, I hear Valerie and turn to see her cradle a few demons with her blood spears, though most have come out nearly unscathed due to regeneration. Valerie quickly runs and hides behind me. If you don't protect me now, we'll never have sex again, says Valerie looking into my eyes. I really doubt she would do that due to the pervert that she is, but that's okay. Right, I get in front of Valerie and start looking at the demons, the most interesting ones being the ones that were hit by Valerie's stakes, where flames covered her body and regenerated it. This started happening after the dungeon kind of went through an update. Over time, coming to the dungeon became boring due to my immense power. After all, there were no more challenges in battles, I just came to level up. But after a while the beings started to have different abilities. First they began to adapt to different battle situations. For example, I kill a demon with a surprise sword blow, the next time I come the demons have already adapted and managed to at least dodge the blow. Another thing is that they now have a more human form and especially new abilities. Apparently these abilities are based on the 72 pillars of the underworld. For example, there are demons that possess the immortality and fire magic of the members of House Phoenix, making them stronger and more resistant. Others have the power of destruction of House Baal. Or House Belial's Worthless, an ability that allows the user to temporarily deny an opponent's powers. Looking at the devils in front of me, I braced myself and lunged at him. In my right hand materializes, in golden particles, a large axe with a silver handle and a golden blade with several carvings made in it. One would say that it is a masterpiece. When I get close to the devil, I just swing the axe, splitting the devil in half easily due to the sharpness of the axe. The axe in my hand is replaced by a sword with a silver blade and a golden grip. Swinging the sword, I defend the attack of the devils, and with mastery I throw him away and then pierce him with the sword, making him scream in pain. Sensing the danger, I take the sword, which was still trapped in the devil's body, and throw it along with the devil into a fireball, burning the devil. The sword vanishes into particles, returning to the gate of Babylon, and in my hand materializes a golden spear with a curved silver tip. I simply throw the spear, which easily pierces the devil's head and then disappears. Honestly, Gate of Babylon is an amazing ability, not only because it contains all the treasures in the world, but also because it has so many weapons that you will have each one for every occasion. Feeling a build-up of magical power, I look up and see several devils preparing various spells to cast on me. Grinning, I summon a sword from my treasures. It was a normal katana with black hilt and grey blade. I start to release my magic power. Mana zone. At this point all my magic starts to spread over a large area around me, encompassing even the devils. Mana zone or mana domain was a technique that I created, the basis of an ability from the Black Clover universe. Basically, I expand my magic over a large area. Within this area all my spells have their power increased and that of my enemies weakened, being very good for attack and defense. Offensively, this mana can be channeled into spells to increase their size, number, and range. It can also be used to launch attacks in any direction and from any direction within the zone. Spells can be created around a target to prevent it from escaping, within an enemy's spell to destroy it, or behind a target to catch them by surprise. Defensively, mana can be used to improve mana detection and increase reaction time, in addition to increasing my magic and other spells, allowing to predict enemy attacks and allowing the user to move and slash or stay airborne. The devils start firing their spells as my sword envelopes itself in darkness. Dark magic, black hole. Spinning my blade forms a small black hole that advances towards the powers of the devils, absorbing them. Dark magic is exactly and completely opposite to light magic in everything, be it attribute or speed. But dark magic is especially good at one thing. Absorb other spells. Bathing my sword in darkness again, I prepare another spell. Dark magic, dark cut. When swinging from her sword, dozens of black blades come out that are launched, cutting the devils. Even the power of destruction of the Baal or the immortality of the Phoenix becomes useless, as darkness devours other spells. Looking to the side, I see great waves of fire coming towards me, destroying everything. With a movement of my hand, I accumulate a great amount of moisture in the air, creating a wave of water that engulfs the flames, extinguishing them and continuing to advance towards the devils. When she approaches them, I move my hand, making the wave of water take the form of a gigantic dragon that swallows the devils. Closing my hand, the water turns into a large block of ice that shatters itself and in the process creates dozens of ice spears that depart towards the devils. Many devils died when being hit by the spears, but most create a large magic circle of defense. Smiling, I summon a spear from the Gate of Babylon, and in my right hand appears my mark of Lightning Devil Slayer magic, or Lightning Demon Slayer magic. Carrying the spokes on the spear, I prepare myself. Penetrate. I say as I manifest the boosted gear in my left hand. Penetrate, says Drake's voice from inside the boosted gear. Lightning Devil's Spear. I throw the spear towards the barrier while it is engulfed in lightning. The moment the barrier and the spear collide, the barrier disappears as if it never existed. This is due to an ability of Drake, a penetration, not how you are imagining your perverts. This ability allows the user to destroy and penetrate any defense, whether physical or magical, so I just enchanted her on the spear. When the spear pierced the devil's defense and reached the sky, it released gigantic amounts of lightning and storms in the sky, reaching and killing many devils. Seeing more devils approach me, I raised my hand and carried a large amount of white magic. Holy ray of the white god. From my hand gigantic rays of light come out, piercing the devils with the white god slayer magic. Gil, you should finish this quick, I hear in Kiju's voice, and I can't help but agree. I must finish this dungeon fast. Problem is, most of the devils have gathered in front of the boss's tower and I need to get past them, and this will take a while. Master, I only hear a voice before something hits the ground beside me, raising a cloud of dust that when it disappears shows Mordred wearing his armor and wielding Clarent. Hey Mordred, are you done yet? I ask her. Yes, they were boring, she said with a grunt. But it's not like the devils could do anything against Mordred. After all, she has a lot of strength even without releasing her noble phantasm. Are you going to finish this? She asks. Yeah, it's about time, I say, bracing myself. I see a big smile cross Mordred's face. So how about we make a bet? She asks. Which? Whoever kills the most wins, she said with a smile. Okay, let's get started, I say as I summon a sword from the Gate of Babylon. It was a simple sword, not even a noble phantasm was. It had a medium-sized silver blade and a blue hilt. But what dwelled in her that made her special? A djinn. A djinn is basically a being made of pure magic that dwells inside a weapon of its wielder, which is considered a king. It grants many different types of spells and abilities. They were a kind of reward from some random dungeons I made, which is only achieved by defeating the boss. I already had 5 of them, they kind of rarely show up. I raise my sword when a small magic circle appears on it. This represented the djinn that inhabited that sword. My servant of wrath and heroism, I command you, inhabit my body and transform it into the body of a great and powerful sorcerer. At this moment a big lightning strikes on me and my appearance starts to change. When the lightning disappears my new appearance is seen, which resembles a dragon with 2 horns and a jewel on its forehead and an elaborate gold necklace, along with a blue scale-like armor over body parts and a long tail. Mesu, Baal the Jinn that inhabits my sword is Baal the Jinn of wrath and heroism, who has the ability to manipulate lightning. Mesu was basically a way that you turned into a great sorcerer by embodying the full power of the Jinn, where you are able to exercise your true abilities. Mordred, although showing a little surprise, she already knew some of my Jinns. Come on, shouts Mordred as she rushes at the devils. I start flying, thanks to Mesu, and also launch myself towards the devils. The devils had no chance, those who approached were simply annihilated by my lightning. Seeing Mordred I see that he also destroys them with his red thunders. It had been quite some time since the beginning of my competition with Mordred. If I looked back I would see a lot of devil bodies dead with lightning burns or totally annihilated. Now me and Mordred are in front of boss's room. So how many have you killed, Mordred? 55 master, says Mordred with a smile. I return. What a coincidence, I also killed 55, I say. We stared at each other a bit until Mordred said, so whoever kills boss first wins, she says, and I nod in agreement. We walk to the door that opens. You are entering boss's room, you can only leave after defeating him. Good luck, host. Thank you system. When we enter the room it lights up in flames all over the place and reveals boss. He was big, very gigantic, I think 8 to 9 meters tall, and was made entirely of molten lava rocks with flames coming out of his eyes and mouth. He also had 4 arms and eyes and looked quite a monster. The monster starts to release flames all over its body as the temperature of the place starts to rise, although I don't feel heat due to Purgatory Dragon Slayer magic and my natural resistance. Mordred also appears unaffected. I'll finish him off before you can blink, master, says Mordred with a smile. And I'm going to kill him before you can even breathe, I say teasingly with a smile. And we ended up getting lost while playing taunts at each other. I'll kill him first, Mordred yells angrily. I'll kill him first, I yell. We hear the monster roaring. Don't bother us, mutt/idiot, we yelled, me and Mordred at the same time as we pointed our swords at him. From Clarent red rays of energy arise, from the vessel of Baal blue rays arise. Bararic clear huge waves of lightning shoot at the same time towards the devils, who can do nothing but be destroyed. Boss was destroyed. Damn, who hit before? Who system hit before? The coups occurred at the same time, damn it. That was. Begins Mordred. At the same time, complete me. We just stare at emptiness for a while. So how about we settle this now, master, says Mordred as he squeezes Clarent's cable, making it crackle in electricity. Yes, let's work this out, I say as I squeeze Baal's container, making lightning dance around it. We advance against each other, crashing our swords that repel each other while releasing rays through them. Pulling back I see Mordred accumulate a great amount of energy in the sword that lit up in red energy and lightning. Wait, she will release her noble phantasm here. Great storm clouds begin to appear around me, and from them great waves of lightning come out and are absorbed by Baal's vessel. Damn it! Clarent blood! Bararic! Arthur/Psycha, it was only possible to see 2 rays, one red and one blue, meeting before the explosion. Kua Academy. Well, here I am at school after my battle with Mordred. The result of the liberation of Clarent and the Bararic Psycha had resulted in a massive explosion that hit me and Mordred. Although our blows were cancelled and mine came out more victorious. Don't be surprised, although Clarent's release was strong, she wasn't as strong as Bararic Psycha that she could easily annihilate a mountain range easily. Although I also have a slight pain in my arm, Mordred also got a little bruise and ended up using it as an excuse to stay home. That damn! It didn't take long for my eyes to capture Konako and Asia. When the white-haired devil saw me, her entire body tensed. I could tell she was shaking a little and was trying to get away. But there was a problem. Asia was holding her hand as she dragged her to me. Good job, Asia. Well, the reason Asia is here is that she was enrolled in school along with me and Mordred. Gilgamesh-san. I brought Konako-san. Asia said when she saw me. Oh good. Thanks, Asia. I replied in a grateful tone, and the blonde girl smiled. I then turned to Konako, who tensed when I smiled at her. Hello Konako, can I call you that? She nodded and my smile widened a little. Hello Konako, nice to meet you again. Konako just nodded. Her face might have been blank, but I could see her little body shiver and the sweat on her forehead. I just inwardly sighed. Well, it wasn't a surprise to see her like that. Could you imagine if she was in her position? If you were in front of a dragon T-times had threatened to eat you during your first encounter with him, wouldn't you be afraid too? Konako, relax. I said in my gentlest tone, and although the effect wasn't visible, I noticed she relaxed a little. I won't hurt you or eat you, so you don't have to fear me. In fact, it's the other way around. I told her and her eyes showed confusion for a moment. I came, to apologize. Her shock was clearly visible when I could see her eyes widen, an expression of surprise also on her face. What I did during our first meeting, was awesome, I think. I continued while still looking at her and showing an embarrassed face. That's why I want to apologize to you. There was a moment of silence when Konako stared at me with confused eyes. I could tell she swallowed a lump in her throat before speaking. I don't understand. Her voice was full of confusion. Why don't you talk to Buku? Surely it would be easier. Because she doesn't deserve it. I said with a firm face. She tried to manipulate me and trap me as a slave, and however kind she would treat me if I became a slave, it would still be slavery and manipulation. I've been manipulated, master or not, Drake would be mad, I declared, and Konako's eyes widened in mild horror at the mention of Drake's anger. It was true that Drake was a very proud dragon. If I died and became Ria's servant, and found out we'd been manipulated, it wouldn't have been pretty. I could barely contain Drake's aura of pure hatred that had been directed at Rias for his blatant disrespect and for trying to pretend innocent back then. It's true that he wouldn't hurt anyone, but having to suppress his angry aura would be very irritating and even traumatizing for the targets. I didn't think Rias could be close to me if that had happened. I would die, I'm sure of that, but Rias Gremory would die with me. I can guarantee that. I said firmly that even in a state of anger, I would be able to hit Rias Gremory with ease. Then why? Konako asked again, obviously confused. Why was I apologizing to her but not her master? Because I treated you like her. I said softly. When I walked into that room, I saw everyone like Rias Gremory, like a devil who tried to manipulate my life. And when I saw your horrified look, I closed my eyes and stopped as Konako's horror flashed through my mind. I feel sorry for that. I was pretty naive back there. I admit that, and what I did to you was wrong. Konako looked at me blank-faced, all his fear seemed to vanish. True, she was still cautious, I could tell that, but she was more confused now. There are also Akeno Fukubachu and Kiba. Why me? She asked again. Akeno-san, for some strange reason, gives me a similar vibe to Rias Gremory. I said and then shook my head. I don't like her. The aura she radiated seemed more obscene and darker than Rias's. I'm not talking about strength, but the nature of her presence. It was true, Akeno Himejima's aura was more strange than Rias or Sana. It was dark as a devil's, but the corruption she possessed was greater than those two. It was likely because she was a mix of a fallen angel and a devil. The only aura that surpassed the devil in terms of corruption was that of a fallen angel. They fell from heaven due to being corrupted by sin. Do you think this is absurd? How could a fallen angel be more corrupt than a devil? Simple. The brighter the light shines, the darker it gets when it turns black. As for Kiba, that man doesn't get scared as easily as you. I declared. No offense at all, it's because of your status as Nico Xiao. Konako's eyes widened in surprise. Oh, don't be surprised, I can feel you were yokai and quite adept at senjutsu. Here I grimaced as I realized she must have seen something worse than Rias and all, but surprisingly I saw her pale as well. And for that I deeply apologize to you. I said in an insura tone and tilted my head slightly. Konako was silent when she heard this. I could see that despite her blank face, she was really upset and didn't know what to say. I don't blame her, she would also show the same expression if she were in her position. I also brought a cake that I baked as an excuse. I tried to bribe her and she got excited about it. Cake? Yes. I made it myself, don't worry, it's not poisoned. I swear by Drake's name and my status as Sekiruti. I stated firmly and held the box out to her. Konako looked closely at the box, his golden eyes fixed on the box as if it were some kind of prey. Slowly she took the box from me and opened it to reveal the food I made, fork and spoon already there. Gilgamesh-san's cooking is great. Asia supported me and I puffed out my chest slightly. Well, I always liked cooking, and living traveling around the world teaches you some things, and I also learned from Sabas, but the main thing is the gate of Babylon. There is only the best things in the world, from food and drink to weapons. And if I get a knife from there, from a great chef, thanks to weapons proficiency I could acquire all the knowledge about the art of cooking. Konako looked smug after listening to Asia as she stared at the white cake she was holding. She took a spoonful of cake and popped it into her mouth before her eyes widened. Konako's eyes closed, her lips curved upward and formed a pleasant smile. She then moaned in a cute way, and to be honest, that moan sounded like she just had an orgasm. That dreamy look of hers wasn't helping either. I held back the blush that threatened to come out, that moan clearly. It was too hot if you asked me. What? I was a man. A teenager himself. I had hormones that were still raging. Meanwhile, Asia was openly blushing when she heard Konako moan. Konako, after swallowing the bite, looked at the rest of the cake with sparkles in her eyes, as if that cake were a sacred food. She slowly raised her head to me and there was no longer any sign of fear there but a steady, demanding gaze. You have more? She asked me. I'll have to get there first, finish that one if you want another one. I said with a laugh, this girl really was cute. His blank face strangely suited him. She was one of those cute dear types, wasn't she? That was rare, thinking I would find one now. Done. I blinked when she said this and looked at the box, making my jaw hit the floor. It was empty. It was empty. The cake. Where were you? Where was the cake? What the hell? I muttered with wide eyes and shock. Where's the cake? I asked Konako right away. I ate. Konako said as she wiped her mouth with a tissue. Konako. I called, my tone solemn and my face grim. Konako, the cake had a diameter of 20 centimeters. As in the name of Satan, Odin, God, Zeus, and Ophies you ate so fast. I yelled as I got to the last part, seriously how the hell did she manage to finish the cake so fast? Even Mordred can't eat that fast. I ate. Konako repeated, her face and tone remained the same, as if she were talking to a silly child. That's not an answer. I grabbed it. You. I closed my mouth before slapping my face with my palm too hard. I slowly let out a heavy breath and shook my head. You know what? For my sanity's sake, let's pretend we never had this conversation. I told her in a serious tone and Konako just tilted her head to the side while her face was still blank. Okay. She said nonsense before extending a hand expectantly. More cake. More cake. I nodded solemnly as if I was just receiving the gospel. Let's go to my house. Next day. Kua Academy. Today was Sunday and therefore there was no school. But this morning you can find me and Asia walking down the halls of Kua Academy, on my way to the student council office. But even though the school was off, I was called by Sana to go to the student council office. She said someone wanted to meet me and Asia. I wore my typical outfit, a long-sleeved white t-shirt and jeans along with black sneakers, but the most striking thing is a gold bracelet I have on my left hand along with a small silver necklace with a sapphire in her right hand and a gold necklace with rubies around her neck. Asia beside me was wearing her usual nun outfit. I didn't know why, but it seemed like she liked this outfit a lot, probably because it made her feel comfortable, and since we were going to find someone with ties to the devils, it was better if we showed them that Asia really was a nun. Gilgamesh-san. Asia called me and put me out of her head. Is this the office? She pointed to the door that held student council office and I nodded. Yes, let's go inside. I told her and we knocked on the door. Shortly thereafter, the door opened and revealed Tsubaki Shinra, Sana's queen. Ah, Gilgamesh-san, you are already here. You also brought Argento-san, please come in. She opened the door fully and waved her hand. We nodded and Asia gave her a smiling greeting, to which she responded in kind. So we entered the office. When we entered the office, my eyes immediately sought out the foreign figure and I found it instantly. Sana was sitting on a couch and on the other side was a young man, probably my age and Sana's. He had dark hair and wore expensive clothes. Devil, another devil. I could smell and taste the aura he radiated, along with the magical energy he possessed. He was a devil. And, seeing his appearance, it was clear that he was also a high-class, full-blooded devil. He gave me a familiar feeling, and it wasn't a good familiar, but one that made me want to kill him now. But I held back. The way he looked at Asia. I really didn't like it. Ah, Gilgamesh-kun, you have arrived. Sana greeted me as Asia and I walked forward, standing in front of her and that devil. This is someone who wanted to meet you. She gestured with her hand. I can introduce myself from here, thank you Satrai-san. He said politely and Sana nodded, her face stoic. The male devil rose, his eyes closed as he smiled. Asia Argento. We finally met, he spoke in a gentle tone. Asia. Asia shows a confused look, she was clearly confused by what he had said. The black-haired devil's smile darkened a little, as if he were disappointed. So you forgot me. We met back then. He spoke in a bitter tone and suddenly revealed his chest and showed a big scar there. It was a deep scar. Asia's eyes widened when she saw this while mine narrowed. That guy. That wound, could it be? Asia gasped softly. Yes, my face couldn't be seen back then, but I'm the devil from that moment on. There was no doubt, seeing Asia's wordless reaction now and her words confirmed my guess. This guy was the devil that had been healed by Asia, this creature. This creature was the source of Asia's misery. It was damn Diodora Astaroth. My name is Diodora Astaroth, the heir of the Astaroth clan. And I am the devil who was saved thanks to his sacred gear, he said with a gentlemanly smile. He then took Asia's hand and kissed her in a prince-like way. Asia, I came to meet you. I've been looking for you since your exile, to thank you properly. Asia, I want you to be my wife. I love you. Dozens of swords flashed through my mind at that instant to kill him. To anyone watching it was clear that Asia is distraught by Diodora's sudden statement. Even Sana looked surprised. Me? I was about to pull Excalibur and a dozen more holy swords to kill him right there, that guy was pissing me off. But I didn't, killing a pure-blood devil who is still Ajoka Beelzebub's brother won't be good. Not for me. I honestly didn't mind causing a war with the devil faction. But if they found out about my connection to the angel faction they could accuse them of wanting a war, and I don't want to involve Michael and Gabriel in this. And wife? Asks Asia in shock. Yes wife. Diodora said with a smile before tilting her head. Maybe that wasn't the right order. Forgive me Asia, I was too early. How about we start a relationship first? He asked. Asia. I will ask my colleagues to take your belongings and take them to my property in the underworld. In fact, this is the fate of Asia, to think that I would find you again like this. Shall we go now? What? But Asia stuttered as she looked at me, she clearly felt uncomfortable and was silently asking for help. I was more than happy to oblige. Diodora Astaroth. I interrupted their conversation when I took a step forward and pulled Asia back protectively. The black-haired devil turned to me and his eyes that had been closed by her smile opened a little. I don't know if you're stupid or what, but do you think Asia is some kind of doll? I asked with furrowed brows. You must be Gilgamesh. Diodora said, the smile still on her face. I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. Oh, you really are stupid then. I commented slyly and I could see his smile darkening at that, and his eyebrow twitched too. Let's say you're a girl and then you save someone and the person you save is a prince and he wants to take you to the castle and marry you. Do you accept? I asked. Diodora's smiling expression was gone and his eyes also opened a little, it was clear he was starting to get annoyed. As far as I cared, his angry face was pleasant to me. This is a bunch of bullshit that only happens in fairy tales, you idiot. This is the real world. Do you think Asia wants to go with you like this? I continued as I walked away and faced Asia. The girl looked at me happily but was hiding behind her nervousness. Asia was too kind for its own good and that wasn't always a good thing, especially in the supernatural world. For example, what happened to her was also because of her own kindness. Even ignoring the state of God, she should have known that, no matter what, she shouldn't have healed Diodora in the past, seeing as he was a devil and he was in church territory.